pandemic got us into a reflective space and made us look inward to see what we can do for the world at large. As a self-expression coach, I became a catalyst for women and started Vani, a one-on-one coaching program for women on finding their voice, to speak up, to be visible. As a storyteller, I spotted there were many ordinary people amongst us leading extraordinary lives, making a difference to the world, and they needed to be heard. Thus was born You and I with Rashmi Shetty, where amazing personal journeys with their uniqueness and individuality are showcased, a reaffirmation of the fact, open your eyes wider, the world is far more beautiful when we acknowledge the presence of both you and I. Our guest today is Prarthana Prateek Kaul, the co-founder of GiftAbled, an award-winning social enterprise that strives to create an ecosystem of like-minded individuals to collectively build an inclusive society. GiftAbled has supported the livelihood of thousands of people with disability and the underprivileged across India through supply chain diversity and other projects. She's a course marketeer, motivational trainer, known for her high energy keynotes, and has engaged with 15,000 plus volunteers and hundreds of nonprofits across the country on various causes. Additionally, she has been invited by reputed national institutes to address their students. Her efforts and contributions towards the empowerment of people with disabilities have won her various awards and accolades, including Social Entrepreneur of the Year by Nama Bengaluru Foundation, Community Service Award by Rotary Bangalore Centennial, and the Top 3 Social Enterprise in the country by IIM Calcutta Innovation Park as part of the Tata Social Enterprise Challenge. Prarthana has also served as a board member of non-profit entities and was a life skills trainer for students. Listen in as Prarthana joyfully shares some inspirational moments of this magical journey she is on. Her formula to stay high constantly: write love letters to yourself. Hi Prarthana, such an amazing time I know for sure I'm going to have just looking at the smile on your face and the joy that you exude. Welcome to You and I with Rashmi Shetty.
Thanks, Rashmi.
I have heard so much about you from our friend Rajdeep, and when I went through your website, I was like stunned. What all do you do? But before we get to what and who Prarthana is and what she does, I want to know what was little Prarthana like to the Prarthana that the world knows you today as.
Oh my God, childhood. I have had a lot of lovely memories. I have 2 siblings, 1 brother, 1 sister, and both are elders. So being the youngest one, I'm sure you would agree, I was pampered a lot by everyone. And at the same time, I was supported in everything. I was not someone who was like the topper in the class, but yeah, I had my share of all good times, whether it was studies or extracurriculars. So I used to sing, dance, sports, not much of sports, but yeah, it was like a mix. Thanks to our parents who have been supportive at each step, whether it was like, encouraging all 3 of us to be part of everything, experience everything, see what you like, do what you like. And probably that has helped us at each step. So my dad is a Vedic maths lecturer and a musician. He's a born musician. He has his some instincts, like a lot of them in my sister. So both of them are good singers. And my brother is good with maths. My mom is into spirituality. So probably all those mixtures have come in all of us. And somewhere probably that has helped us take many decisions, whether they were hard or whether they were good, all led to good things. So yeah. Yeah. So I had a very nice, wonderful childhood, and I'm born and brought up in Dandeli, lovely place in North Karnataka. And till college I was there, and then moved to Bangalore, and I enrolled in chartered accountancy course, because most of my friends ended up saying, "Oh, you're good with accounts. Why don't you do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, is it?" So all those decisions, I don't know where, like, coming from, like, all the directions. So it was somewhere probably in those days there was no one to guide you in terms of, like, what is the career path. So it is like either science, commerce, or arts. And I'm the only person in my family who changed that route. Everyone is science student, and I was like, I want to do commerce. So ended up doing that. Failed 3 times in chartered accountancy internship examination. Completed my internship, articleship. Got to learn a lot of things, and then I decided I want to do MBA. So did MBA correspondence. While doing that, I joined IBM, and during that phase started volunteering during weekends. Probably during childhood, college days, it was volunteering, but I did not know the term that, oh, this is called as volunteering, as such formally. But yeah, like, reading books for someone who is from say Hindi medium or Kannada medium. And that's how probably I passed my examinations. So yeah, that's me, with wonderful family, friends around. And touch wood, till date, have all good friends and family members around.
Oh, yes. Like you're typical of the karma theory. What goes round comes round.
Exactly.
So you were this happy-go-lucky child, average, above average in studies, good, moved into commerce, went into the articleship, cleared it, but then decided to do an MBA. And in the process of this MBA, you joined IBM. Then what did life tell you? Post MBA, did things change? When did you shift into a career which was completely non-IT?
So I remember during weekends we used to volunteer a lot. So it was for children. So it was from for some activities with slum children, or reading books for visually impaired. And while I was doing those, I was spending around 2 to 3 hours every weekend. And one day I just came to my parents and I said, "Looks like 2 3 hours are not enough. Sometimes you feel you want to do a lot." And my parents, being my parents, they said, "Do what you like." And I just go to my manager and I say, "I want to put my papers." And usually it is like, someone putting papers because they have got a job in a competitor firm.
Correct.
And this is like, the reason I gave was because I want to shift from corporate world to social sector. And I still remember, not even my manager, being like, like you said, happy go lucky. So it was like, had a lot of friends, connects. So one of the manager called me and he said, I still remember that discussion in the room where we said, I heard you have decided to move to social sector. But remember, it's not easy over there. Life is not easy. There's a lot of politics. And at any point, if you feel you want to come back, you're just, you can reach out to any of us and join the corporate world again." And today it has been more than 16 years. Not even one day that I regretted of taking this decision. Almost every other day, I see an impact being created through me, or through a lot of volunteers, through passionate team that we have. And that keeps us going. You see impact, you feel like there's a lot more to do. Sometimes that helplessness, that, hey, we need good resources and we need to reach out to more. But probably that changed mainly because one of the reason was the support that we had. Otherwise, it's very difficult. So I think, and then there was no looking back. Worked with almost 25,000 plus volunteers. Got a chance to work with hundreds of NGOs working on different issues. So I moved from IBM to I Volunteer, an organization that connects volunteers to different NGOs. And that helped me reach out to different NGOs, work on different issues. And at one point, I realized how disability as a cause comes to bottom of pyramid. I still remember 14 years back, I learned sign language. I used to be very happy, and I used to, like, go meet a deaf and say, "Hey, hi, my name is Prarthana." The immediate response used to be like, "Are you deaf?" I was like, no, is someone in your family deaf? And I was like, no, why? Because you're signing. So for them, it was like there has to be a reason why I am learning sign language. And we wanted to change that perception. And somewhere I saw that change happening. We decided every week we will do awareness. So we started going to malls, parks, spreading awareness. And I remember one day, one volunteer posted on her social media saying, morning I attended this session. Afternoon, I go to MG Road Metro in Bangalore. I see a pottery artist teaching nice pots, taking his son's help. And then I realized he's deaf and I had heard about him. So she goes there and she says, hi, my name is Alekia. And the response that she got was, are you volunteer? Giftable? And a change that has started happening because each one of volunteer has taken that step, not because someone in the family is deaf, but because I want to do something for inclusion in true sense. Many a times we use this word like, diversity, inclusion. But when you witness this at first go, you see like, oh, wow, things are changing, right? So, yeah.
Oh my God. So you were volunteering in all these places. You joined I Volunteer. When did GiftAble get conceived in your head and when was it born?
A couple of small incidences that led
Sure.
to GiftAbled. So my best half, so I met my best half during the journey in social sector. So he was one of our volunteer and he also wanted to do a lot of good. And we were discussing what would be the cause that requires a lot of our support. Where are things lacking? And somewhere we were like, thinking about there needs a lot of support that is needed in the health sector. Secondly, few incidences. One was the deaf one, like, where people started thinking there has to be a reason. Secondly, I remember there was an event in Prateek's office. And he said, hey, you know what? I have one event with all children who are low vision or visually impaired. And I'm leading it. So what gift do you suggest? And if I have to ask you, Rashmi, what do you think? A person who is visually impaired or blind, what gift can we give them?
I would give some a music cassette or an audio book or something like that.
Exactly. And this was my answer too. And I said, Pratik, let's give them musical instrument. They will love it. And I still remember we both stopped and we said, not necessary if a person is blind, he or she has to love music. The only difference between that person and me is he or she can not see, I can see. Maybe I don't like music or maybe I love music. But one assumption that went in our head was, hey, maybe because that person can't see, the person would love music, right? And then we said, leave aside the job, the education part of it. The basic awareness is missing. How do we start spreading awareness about small little things? How can we start making games that are inclusive? This Rubik cube is always there on my, I carry it wherever I go. Although I don't know how to solve it, but what are the colors that you're seeing?
I can see a red, green, yellow, blue, orange, white.
Right,
Yeah.
close your eyes. What are the colors?
Nothing.
Right. So if I give this Rubik cube to someone who is blind and say, hey, our friend Rajdeep, I'll give him and I'll say, Rajdeep, play. First thing Rajdeep will say is like, Prarthana, looks like I have won the game. I've solved the puzzle, right? Having known Rajdeep, he would do that. But
yeah, I'm not at all surprised. You really know him.
and then we started thinking, how can Rajdeep or someone else play this? Yeah. And that's when we made it tactile. So now, if a person who is visually impaired gets this, they would be like, oh, I have to get this heart at one side, plane at other side, this circle at other side, right? And start playing. And started thinking about inclusive games. And the best part about this is, I remember one day one of the corporates said, hey, we have event with 100 people with and without disability. And I was like, oh, wow, nice, with and without disability. Now what next? We want to give everyone gift. So what do you suggest? Some game. So we said, give them Rubik Cube and tic-tac-toe. We will make it tactile. So they said, okay. So we got an order, which we had to deliver in 10 days. And I still remember, we taught special educators who in turn taught youth with intellectual disability, and 100 Rubik cubes were ready in 1 week's time. 5 were not of good quality. We sent them back. They got it back. So there was no sympathy angle. There was empathy. There was an inclusive game that got ready. There was awareness. There was ripple effect, and so much of inclusion, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. At each step, you start thinking what could be better, how we could do it.
Wow, wow. But what gave you the idea, Prarthana, to make it tactile? Was it just because the question came that they said people with and without disabilities? Now, disabilities are of many kinds, right?
Right.
What did tactile bring in there into the picture for you to immediately think of this?
So probably when we started interacting with children and all, we realized like, there is Braille, but somewhere we realized how could a person relate to story. So now I'm seeing all the beautiful pictures behind you, and I'm like, oh wow, that picture, this picture. I'm seeing and I'm learning. Similarly, if I read a book and there are pictures, I'll feel like, oh wow, this picture is there. So I will relate easily. But for someone who is visually impaired, it's like just reading Braille and, keeping in their head. So we decided, can we make some books? So I remember one of the book, like, Amma made dosa. Now, can I make a tawa with some hard material, some dosa, so that the kid can feel, oh, this is tawa, this is how dosa is. And that creates an interest in them. And that's how the tactile stuff came into picture. Again, working with a lot of partner organizations, we realized this is quite necessary. So we build around 10 to 15 tactile libraries across India now. Not more, but then feels good. Like, people are trying to work on different things.
Okay. You put in a lot of who you are in that 5 minutes that you described your journey. But when you say sign language, okay, and you bring it in and you're like so fluent, what got you to get an interest in sign language? What intrigued you that you should learn it? Because definitely it's an effort to do it.
Right.
And you obviously you're teaching so much now that it is so much wired into who you are that it just came so easily.
Oh, that's true. I remember, so during the initial journey phase, I was volunteering for different issues, whether it was children, education, human rights, elderly welfare, civic issues, and disability as well. So while working on disability issue, I remember one day I was walking and I saw a bunch of children laughing, smiling. And just a day before, one of the volunteer had called and she was like, can we all, like, some 10 volunteers get together and learn sign language? So I was like, let me check if someone does. And I remember I was walking, the kids were smiling, and I was like, is everything okay? Why are they laughing? And then I realized that sign language, and they are laughing not on me, but they are having fun in their own world. So I go to that organization and I'm like, can you teach us that language? And they were like, why do you want to learn? Because usually it's like, people learn only if they have a reason. So I said, I work with thousands of volunteers and it will be nice. Maybe tomorrow I can teach accounts because I'm good at accounts. Someone else is good at something else. They can teach that. So they said, okay, let's do that. And I still remember first class, they taught us alphabets. Back then, they used to teach American Sign Language. In Bangalore, many people followed one hand ASL. Slowly, we realized today there are like a lot of people who follow Indian Sign Language, which uses both hands. So I feel good that, I have learned ASL, I have learned Indian Sign Language, and I also see like, people doing lip movement. So for me, it is communication is more important, whether you do ASL, ISL, or communicate. And any dev who comes to me and I'm able to do that basic communication, I feel awesome about it. Last month, I was in Hyderabad in Lemon Tree Hotel, and I remember I saw two deaf waiters over there. And as soon as I started communicating with them, the whole expression changed. Like, they were like, oh my God, you know sign language. And then the conversation started, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I run this organization, GiftAbled. The person actually went in our website and he said, I know GiftAbled, you do a lot of sign language workshops and all. So slowly, also during pandemic, what happened was, I saw there were people doing reels, which is like a 30-second video.
Yeah.
And I was like, and people are like doing dance, songs. And I'm like, can I do song in sign language? Just to spread awareness, not to teach people, but to spread awareness that this is a beautiful language. And I remember there were almost like thousands of people who came ahead saying, can I learn sign language? A change that had started happening. So I would just do a song saying, oh, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us and the world will live as one. And then people would be like, oh, this language is so easy. I want to learn. Right. And there were hundreds of people who did that, who learned at least basic. So today, if any volunteer goes and says, my name is so and so, the response is not, are you deaf? The response is, are you volunteer? Can you do this volunteering? And that's the change that I've seen over last 14 years. From the time I learned sign language to till today, I learn a lot of it. So it's ongoing journey.
Yeah, and this is so magical, Prarthana. So here you are, sign language, and then gifts, which are so thought about and thought into,
Right.
such that they make so much of a difference to the one who's receiving it. I like the way you said best half and not better half. Now, how did that best half come into your life after you met at volunteering? All right. Lot of thoughts went together, all right. But when did you decide that you're going to be partners, and did your business start first and then the life partnership?
Yeah, life partnership. So we known each other for almost 15 years now,
Okay.
and 13 years back we became life partners. And he was still with the corporate world, and we were deciding what do we do. And small incidences like the gift one or the sign language one. Or slowly seeing during our volunteering journey, seeing some things that made us feel lots is to be done. As a cause, disability comes to bottom of pyramid. What can we do about it? And probably 8 years. So we started GiftAbled 9 years back, and around 7 years back, Prateek completely moved to social sector as well, and we've been running the show. We started with one or two people who joined us, and today we are almost like 40, 50 people running the show across the country. Feels good because thankfully we've received all the, like, we have support system where every person who's joined our organization, I would say not just passionate but compassionate. Somewhere everyone wants to bring in that change, whether it is for health, whether it is for education, whether it is for livelihood of people with disability. And at times team keeps telling us, like, ma'am, you are like the missionary, or like, passionary, and sir is like the visionary, because he looks it from the wider angle. And right now he's in UP, working on projects. So somewhere we felt like, a lot of things have to be done in low income states, especially the aspirational districts. And what best than we going there and understanding the challenges. So Pratik is there for past couple of weeks. We have a team over there working with people with disability on different aspects. So I think the journey that started just with awareness, today we know that we are one of those organization where we can proudly say anything to related to disability end to end, we are here, whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it is livelihood. I remember meeting a deaf woman, and I was like, looking very weak, what happened? And she was like, ma'am, I was carrying 9th month, water burst, I had to rush to hospital. But I was not aware about pregnancy process because nobody had interpreted. And I was like, why? Because for lakhs together of deaf, there are hundreds of interpreters. Where all they will go, whether they will go to interpret in interviews or for trainings or to hospital. At least in countries like US, it's compulsory that doctor arranges an interpreter. But here, to get an interpreter, it's not easy, right? And she was like, I bore the pain. Next day, I go to hospital. The baby born is dead baby. Now, these are the cases that happen every other day. There was another girl on wheelchair, and I was like very bubbly, very enthused. I would say, like, some 10 times energy level than what I am. So I was like, she was like, ma'am, you know what? I was a Bharatanatyam dancer, and I was like, yeah, from your face, I can make that out. And she was like, ma'am, one day I was just drying clothes and I slipped and fell down. I had spinal cord injury. Since then, I'm on wheelchair, and my dad carries me everywhere. And I was like, why don't you, and these were like almost 5-10 years back. So I was like, why don't you go to a rehabilitation center, get therapies, get support, right? Get rehabilitated. And her response was like, ma'am, not even one center which is a rehabilitation center residential for women with disability. And that made us realize how for children or women with disability, health is still way behind, right? We started early intervention center where we identify children in age group of 0 to 6, see what are the therapies that they require, whether it is speech or whether it is occupational therapy, whether it is special education or physiotherapy. And in a month's time, where we have done home visits, whether it is UP, whether it is Karnataka, Telangana, Maharashtra, any place we have gone, we have identified 200, 300 children who do not have access to therapies. They are not aware. Maybe also because for parents, it takes time to accept the fact that I have a child with disability, right? And by the time they accept, that age is gone. So that's when spreading a lot of awareness on health of children with disability. Livelihood, 70% of our population is in rural area. How do we work with them? And that's when we have supply diversity, where there are products made by people with disability. And so there's always this painting or this thing on my thing. So this carving is done by someone who is physically challenged. Polishing is done by someone who is blind. Now, if I'm buying this and I'm supporting livelihood of two people, and we were like, why not have a bigger version? And today there are a lot of artisans that get supported. This painting is always there on my desktop. And I remember Akhilesh's mom always used to say, what would happen to Akhilesh after we are gone? And that is the fear of most of the parents. What after we are not there? Who will take care of them? What about their livelihood? And I remember our partner Cisco once said, hey, you know what? We need a desktop painting with the theme as Diya, because it was Diwali. Akhilesh painting got selected, and his mother sends us an SMS that says Akhilesh is breadwinner in the family. And it did not stop there. Next year, we got similar order with a nice hamper where there were chocolates, this, and a keychain that was carved by physically challenged. And I remember Akhilesh's brother works there. So she sends an SMS saying, Akhilesh's brother has gone on whole floor saying about like, this is by my brother. And he comes home, he says, look, mom, this is by Akhilesh. These are the chocolates made by his friends. And they call Akhilesh, they show him. He looks at the painting, says Akhilesh, Akhilesh, and walks off without even realizing impact he has created on family. Many a times, Prateek, we all keep discussing. And I remember Prateek telling us once, what is disability? It's just two things. A, closed mindset. Second, inaccessible environment. Yeah. If we work on these two, tomorrow disability will not even remain a clause. If I open up my mindset by being more aware or spreading more awareness, if I make my environment, as much accessible as possible, tomorrow, why even I need to think that disability is a cause? Given right accommodation, probably they would perform at par with all of us. Yeah. And that is what is required.
That's so true, Prarthana. Like you said, your volunteer saw those girls talking. I have seen children in the bus.
Yeah.
They speak in sign language, but they're so fluent and happy. They've
that's
for
true.
themselves. So at that time, I realized how disabled I felt because I could not be part of that conversation. But they were in a world that so beautifully they had created for themselves. And like you said, open mindset. That is so
mindset,
important.
and slowly the conversation between a person with disability and us becomes so informal. Otherwise, it is like, oh my God, he's disabled. How do I talk? Krishna, who works with us, has cerebral palsy and he leads a lot of programs in the organization. So today, just yesterday, we were in a session, and post session, so we were fighting. So Krishna had this seat in the front next to driver, and three friends, we were sitting behind from the team, and we were saying, I want window seat, and this was going. And then I was like, Krishna, you have taken this seat and I'm not able to keep my legs, so you're not including us, you're excluding us. And now I feel like, it's becoming like, we say you are excluding us. This is like, you're treating people without disability as, you're excluding. This is not happening. And today we have that sort of discussions that, like, we feel like, there's nothing called as like, oh, he's a person with disability or she's a person with disability. How do I talk? Yeah, we have like open discussions wherever we go.
Yeah, that's true. And I feel kids in this generation are
Yeah.
far more inclusive than we were or the generation prior to us.
Exactly.
Uh,
Today I was outside with my nephew and niece, and they are my youngest volunteers. And I still remember we went to a sports shop or somewhere, and then while we were coming, we saw some temples and all. And I felt good when my nephew said, "Pata, looks like this ramp is not accessible, right? It is at this angle." And I was like, "Oh, cool, yeah." So you feel so good when it's not just like, you spreading awareness, but then people being more and more inclusive in their talks as well.
yeah, yeah. And see, Prarthana, over these last, at least the decade, a lot of awareness has come in. Uh,
Right.
there are festivals and summits like India Inclusion, which bring in a
Yeah.
lot of awareness with people who matter talking about it. And all of this has happened. But have you still, because you are somebody easily who's working with passion and compassion in the right blend to do what you're doing, but have you met people who still surprise you with the closed mindset and not willing to open it? Have you met people like that even today?
We keep meeting. As in, there are a lot of restaurants where the first thing that we check when we are going to restaurants are, do you have a wheelchair?
Yeah.
Probably we would have gone there 3 4 times, thinking like, at least now that step would be taken. Now they would be more inclusive. So at one end we have found this, where they are not ready to bring in that inclusion, but at other end where we have seen, there was someone who was running a home restaurant in Kormangla, and immediately she said, I didn't realize we don't have a ramp. Next time we go, there's a wheelchair, there is a ramp. I get a call saying, hey, you know what, just after you left, next day there were two visually impaired who came, so can you make our menu card in Braille? Right? And she had a menu card in Braille. So people, uh, they're both. It's a mix. So I would say, although we meet someone who is not sensitized or sensitive enough, at the other end, people go out of their way to make that difference. So that would always be there. But somewhere we will not stop bringing in that awareness.
So, in the array of services that GiftAbled gives, what did you start with, and how did slowly? Because very organically things have fallen in place as
Right,
far as your
right.
services are concerned.
Yeah.
So, how did you start, and how did the journey progress to what all you're doing today?
So probably I would say, yeah, like I said, things just kept on falling in place. So like we started with just doing awareness, started doing a lot of volunteering activities. We started Deaf Club, Vision Club, where all the deaf started joining, visually impaired started joining. We used to meet every month, understand challenges, and slowly that helped us understand the challenges. I remember going to a rural area. In a house, there were three deaf-blind sisters. Now, deaf blind, I can't hear, I can't see, so I can't speak. 20 year, 22 year, 25 years. The only communication they have had for 20 years of life is this. So if I feel hungry, I would just do this. Now imagine if you ask me to be in this room, pitch dark, and nobody to communicate, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. After a few hours, I would be like, I want to talk to someone. I want to see faces. I want to meet people. But 20 years of life, nobody to communicate. It's not easy. Probably then you would say, oh, they are also, intellectually disabled. Why they are intellectually disabled? Nobody has spoken to them. Can we start reaching out to places like those? Can we start reaching out to places like Balrampur, right? In UP, when Levi said people without disability, with disability, people without disability also face a lot of challenges. How can we start bringing in? And I think slowly that way, when we started with awareness. After awareness, we realized these are the areas that were lacking, and that's when the early intervention came into picture. Health of people with disability, livelihood of people with disability. So that's when we started the e-commerce store where there are products made by people with disability. So today, if there are corporates, and during pandemic, there were few corporates who said we want to hand deliver products to thousands of families working with us, and we were like, we are ready. Our team was ready. Our team was working 24/7. During pandemic, I saw like probably although a lot of us suffered, but somewhere we were one of those very few who came out, became virtual instantly. We did a lot of awareness workshops. There were thousands of volunteers who signed up saying, hey, you know what, I want to do something good. And today we have a digital library which has thousands of stories accessed by visually impaired across the globe. And not just that, but also by children who do not have access to bedtime stories. Right? There were a lot of people who came out saying, I want to, support acid attack victims. There were a lot of trainings, bakery courses, there were mentoring courses that were done for acid attack victims or the youth with disabilities. Parallelly, we had almost 13 courses, tech courses that were running, because many a times we feel if it is a person with disability, they may not get because of inaccessible environment. Again, not many people are postgraduates, or you, although I want to study but I can't because the environment is not accessible. So we started a lot of tech courses. We said we will focus on not blue collar but white collar jobs. Can we do that? And today there are like almost hundreds of people who have passed out of these courses and are applying for all the good jobs, right? So things started falling in place, health, education, livelihood. Although education, we are still not there, but trying to. If a child cannot reach to school, can the school reach to child? Right? Our team did a lot of universities audit and their website audit, just to make them also know that if you are having a student with disability, your website needs to be accessible, your place needs to be accessible. So somewhere, yeah, I would say slowly touching on all the points. While all of this is happening at one end, we would also sensitize, say, hospitals, corporates, and then a lot of corporates who have shown interest saying, hey, can I, be disability confident leader? And so we do a lot of sensitization workshops, a lot of sign language workshops, different workshops, so that, and not just workshops, but a lot of volunteering as well, so that tomorrow they feel connected to the cause and it is not out of compulsion. And we've seen that impact happening around, people coming ahead, wanting to learn sign language, wanting to be more inclusive, wanting to mentor a lot of people with disability. And also corporates have started coming out saying, previously it used to be like, if I am in Bangalore, I want the projects happening in Bangalore. Today corporates are going out of their way and saying, do wherever you want. You want to go and do it in Solapur, do it in Solapur. Balrampur, do it in Balrampur. And that is what probably is needed. So yeah, that journey has been like, and all of this has been possible because of probably a support of families of every person working in our organization.
Yeah.
Not just our family members, but every person working. At times they would just, since we are flexible, at times people would work for 3-4 hours, or at times people would say I'm working 24/7. So like now Diwali season is happening. So one team is working almost 24/7 doing packaging, products, all of those. Right. So yeah, somewhere we feel like, this is not that 9 to 6 kind of job. This is job where, when you're sleeping also, you would be dreaming about like, what next, where next.
Without my asking, you have said so many stories, and your journey was so beautifully encapsulated by you. So, still looking back, Prarthana, in this journey of more than almost 2 decades now, what is it, any particular instance where it still remains one of that favorite moment where you realized you're on the right path? And even today, when there are moments when you're wondering, this instance just comes up and says that, Prarthana, this is what you were set out to do, and great you're doing it. Anything like that?
A lot of them. And So probably I'll share one which is not disability related and one which is disability related. So when I'm with children or at any organization, I do a lot of activities. I'll be like, shake your right hand, left hand, twist, do this, do that. And I remember a couple of years back, almost decade and a half back, we decided every Diwali we will spend time at Karunashraya, which is a cancer hospice home. So there are patients in their final stage. And I still remember the decision was not because we wanted to just sympathize with the patients, but we realized there are many caretakers who see at least 2 3 deaths every day. And I still remember one of the Diwalis, which is decade more than a decade back, where I was doing this activity, like, shake your right hand, left hand. There were a lot of deaf volunteers also who came, and they were like, "Oh, we can't scream." So I said, "Shake this." And some people were on wheelchairs, so they said, "We'll scream." Some people came on stretchers. Nurses and all were very involved in doing all of this. I saw one person on stretcher, some 23-year young boy, and he was doing whatever possible. And then he raised his hand and said, "Can I sing a song in Kannada?" So I said, "Yeah, most of us don't know sign language, most of us don't know Kannada, so it's okay, everyone will enjoy, you sing." And while he started singing, after 2 3 lines, we realized he had throat cancer. He completed the whole song, and uh, all of us, we were some 100 volunteers. So the Diwali that started with 13 volunteers 13 years back, today we have 100 200 volunteers every Diwali. And that Diwali we had almost 100 volunteers, so everyone clapping. And there was a smile saying, like, I got a chance to hold the mic, sing the song. A week later, I go to Karunashraya and I was like, "Hey, that boy who sang song, can I go and meet him?" And they said, "Looks like today might be his last day." So I said, "Can I just go and meet him?" So I go towards his ward. In my head, I'm still thinking, what do I say? Should I say hi, hello? And I have reached his ward. His hand size was half of my hand size. And even before I could raise hand and say hi, there came a reaction from his side with a smile on his face, which was this: a 1 minute activity that I had done. They say you cannot add days to their life, but you can always add life to their days. And this has remained in my head for almost decade and a half. So each time I feel, can we do this? Should we do this? I just remind of this thing, saying, like, whatever it is, how much ever time, there have been thousands of volunteers I have worked with, and every time I have been asked this question, can I make a difference in an hour? And I talk about this and say, if 1 minute can make so much difference, 1 hour can make a lot of difference, right? One is that, and recently I was in Solapur with our team, where we were distributing assistive aids and all. So with team, I had done a couple of home visits, and I met little Shreya, 4-year-old Shreya, lying on the ground. I think her house was just one room with one sister, parents. She was not able to talk. She was lying on the ground. She was malnourished. She had spinal cord issue. Her mother was quite bubbly. She just had the, palate and cleft surgery, and the smile she had on her face, saying, and the way she held my hand, I had put that reel on social media as well. The way she held my hand, and I was like, sometimes you feel like, as soon as you see a kid, like, I want to support. How do I support? What do I do? And I said, I'm going to support her. I don't know how. And her mom said, I want to see her sitting. And so I told my team, like, so we were also distributing this sitting and standing frames and all, which are customized as per them. And just last week was her birthday, and team sent me the photo saying, "Ma'am, you raised funds for her, and this is the way she's sitting, with a nice soft toy, with a smile on her face, and nutrition powder being supported for almost a year." And another boy, same day, 8-year-old, sitting on the wheelchair for the first time. So I could see him going around, like, I have got freedom. I just have got wings. I want to go everywhere. And when you see that, you feel like, there is a lot more to do. And at the same time, you start feeling, this is it. This is what we are here for. right? And as much as you do, it's less. So at times, I keep saying I feel helpless because these are few kids we have reached to because of the team that is doing work on ground, going into rural areas. But there are a lot of more rural areas that needs to be covered. People want to do good, people want to join the sector, but how many of us actually want to go to the remotest area and do that work? I'm waiting for a day where we'll have a lot of youngsters come and say, I want to go to those remote areas and do something. So probably that is the only challenge I see. Many a times I've been asked, like, what are the challenges? At one end, the best part is the team that we have, but at the other end, we still need those right resources who want to go and do something. Otherwise, yes, we all have support of our family and friends, so feels good. The journey so far has been wonderful, but still we feel we have not even scratched the surface. Still, we have a lot more to do. Each time you see an impact story, you feel, oh, still a lot more to do.
Yeah,
So
that is
yeah,
so
lots to
true.
do.
And in this journey that you have been on, Prarthana, uh, you are joyful, you're bubbly, you're positive, you're so full of life. But I'm sure there are moments when Prarthana just sits and wonders. How do you, in those moments, what do you tell Prarthana?
Nothing. I just at times when I feel low or something, I just write a love letter to myself.
I'm not surprised.
And I tell everyone, like, if anyone says, give me advice, what do I do? I say, write love letter to yourself. You'll just love it. And there have been times when I've written love letter and each time the letter changes. So each time I fall in love with myself. And then feel good about this. Yeah, I'm on the right track and I have all right people, backing up. There's
Yeah.
my in-laws family, there's my family, my mother's family, and everyone is there. They're
Yeah.
just there saying, like, do what you want to do what you like. And probably that has helped Pratik and me reach to wherever we are, with support of family, team, and all the super partners that we have, whether it is corporates, NGOs, or wonderful volunteers that are around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a
And
lot of
it's,
supporters. I have seen supporters whom I don't even know and who have come ahead and said, I want to support the cause, and it has happened. So things fall in place.
oh, yes, they do. I think it's all about the purity of intent.
Yeah,
And when the intent is right and you take that first step, I think the rest just happens. And
exactly, exactly. That's so true.
magically, it
Yeah,
just
magic just
happens.
happens.
Yeah, yeah. But in the midst of all this magic, 2.5 years ago, the world was pushed to a corner where we were told very clearly by Mother Nature who's the boss. And the pandemic shut us all in. Everyone went into a
Right.
reflective space.
True. True.
You were doing such meaningful work. How did the pandemic change you? Did it alter anything at all? And what reflections are yours from the pandemic? Prab?
I remember initial days when it hit, it was not easy. We were doing a lot of trainings, and suddenly everything stopped.
Stop. Yeah.
So, and what next? How do we do? Although our team started working within 3-4 months, but I still remember we were getting calls on not just like other things like job and all. It was like, Madam Khana, can someone just give us food? We have lost our jobs, right? Two people saying, I want to do something good. I'm just not able to stay at home for long. There were a lot of mixed feelings. I was part of a couple of groups where we were supporting people who needed help with oxygen, cylinder, ambulance. And I was seeing, like, we were all awake till night, 3 o'clock, trying to help people. uh, so there was, like, requirement request that was there at 1:50, and 2 o'clock the next message come, it's okay, like, the person is no more. And that drained us a lot in terms of emotionally. We were feeling like, why am I not able to help? But yeah, those were the negative sides. The positive sides was we were able to reach out to people in rural areas who otherwise we wouldn't have reached through online courses. And there were almost thousands of people who have come ahead, enrolled for courses, started doing learning different things. There were a lot of volunteers who came ahead, wanted to help. They have done their bit. A lot of donors who came ahead saying, I want to do my bit. So awareness wise and all, it was awesome. Although it did make everyone's life difficult in some way. But somewhere probably we also started coming up with opportunities because of this.
Yeah.
So they say every problem has a solution. Probably in this case, this problem had a lot of opportunities for most of us. Otherwise, we would have never thought about work from home that could happen. Today,
Yeah.
most of us are working and working efficiently, right? So, yeah, things have changed. Things have changed, and I would say it would be a mixed feeling for me as such, because a lot of stuffs like deaths and all we've seen in different families. But at the same time, people have now come out of it, started doing different things, started earning their livelihood again. So
True.
that has been a good thing.
Correct. Because this podcast too was born in the pandemic,
Oh
and
wow!
one thing that I understood about the human being was the power of resilience,
Right, right,
the ability to just face it and see
right.
how best he can or she can bring out from within, not even
That's
looking
true.
outside. It's
That's
all
true.
about who they can be. And you have been such a fantastic role model. So we're moving to that part, Pratna, where you can tell us about unforgettable moments of recognition that you got, which also are special for you. Because, yes, when you set out on this journey, I'm sure you didn't think of, okay, what am I going to get in return? It was all about giving. But I'm sure in the giving, there were many who were touched, and you must have had those special moments. Any of those special moments you want to share with us?
Yeah, some of the recognitions did happen, and probably these recognitions also make us even more responsible, saying like,
Yeah,
"Hey, you have got recognized. Now you better do more work."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the first one I remember was I won the award Best Social Entrepreneur Award by Nama Bengaluru Foundation,
Okay.
and that helped me a lot in terms of realizing how many people around are doing awesome work, and feeling good that among them you have got recognized as the best one, and everyone was doing has been doing amazing work, and you get to meet so many good people. Post that, there have been many other recognitions, like we have been on top 3 at Tata Social Enterprise Awards uh, across the nation, and we are one of IIM Calcutta incubators, so IIM CIP incubators. So yeah, these are different things, and they have helped us a lot. So feels good about it. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Because I feel those are the moments when you can just sit for a while and start reflecting to see how best to now take the trampoline.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and you feel good because it is not just your alone effort. It's not my effort. There have been,
yeah,
like, lot of team members, their families. Here there are a lot of volunteers. There are a lot of corporates. There are a lot of NGOs who have been doing amazing work. So probably somewhere I feel like those recognitions have been just for those collective efforts that each one of us have put in. So yeah.
true. Very, very true. And as we reach the fag end of this conversation, three life lessons, Prarthana, that you'd like to leave us with.
3 life lessons. Oh my God. Yeah, never thought about it. But then somewhere the incident that I shared about the cancer
Hmm.
patient, I think I would just have this one life lesson. Like, you cannot add days to their life, but you can always add life to the days. Secondly, I have seen that there is a huge impact of volunteering, and we surely need a lot of volunteers who can change the fortune of our country. And probably the third lesson is somewhere just be grounded. like you said, resilience. Be grounded, resilient, kind, because you never know what the other person is going through. So one of the best lesson I feel is, we would not know what anyone is going through. So be as much kind as you can to every person you come across. I know we get angry at times, or but then somewhere we also need to acknowledge the fact that everyone around us is going through tough times in some way or the other. So just be kind to everyone you meet.
Yeah, you never know who needs that at that moment, right?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
That's so true. Oh my God, Prarthana, I'm so humbled, honored to have you on You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Really, such a beautiful conversation. All I can wish for you is may you find that wings to spread farther and farther and bring this amazing work that you're meant to do and take it as far as possible. And if there's any way I can help, I'd be very happy to volunteer as well.
So thank you. This is thank you in sign language. So thank you so much.
With that, we come to the end of this weekly quest of You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Do let us know if you know people who make the world beautiful. Write in to rashmi.thethirdeye@gmail.com. That is rashmi.thirdeye@gmail.com. Come, let's explore this amazing world together, both you and I.